So what should you eat and when should you eat after your training sessions? It is actually really important that you do eat after training, particularly in the first 15 minutes, which is what we call the golden window. This is when your body is super efficient at storing glucose. Now if you think about this, our bodies are really efficient at storing glucose, and we're probably fairly hungry, but what you've got to do is to get the glucose into the bloodstream really quickly. Now in order to do that, you need to eat high glycemic index foods, which is sort of contrary to all the advice that I've given before, but now is a time whenever you need to feed glucose into the body really quickly. Now there's a couple of choices here. This is where people eat things like jelly babies, midget gemmed, wine gums, because they are just pure sugar. Jaffa cakes as well are a good sports food at this time. Sports drinks as well will be really important. You do need to eat again within about the next 2 hours, and my advice would be to have another mixed meal about an hour after you've stopped training. But at this point, just a normal mixed meal of some protein, so some chicken or turkey, and also some carbohydrates, rice, pasta, potatoes, and some vitamins and minerals, fruit and veg. Now the only other time I'd veer away from this is if you've been running for more than an hour and a half. An hour and a half to 2 hours, you could probably have another high glycemic meal about 15 minutes after your first one. So another sports drink and another crunch bar or a few sweets there. It's just because your glucose stores will be a lot lower, you will benefit from that second burst of high glycemic index food. But for most people, something in the first 15 minutes and then a normal mixed meal after an hour. So what about carbohydrate loading? It's something that a lot of athletes will talk about leading up to the marathon, and it is something worth thinking about as well. There's lots of different ways to do carbohydrate loading, but the way that I'd recommend is just to eat an extra 300 to 400 calories of carbohydrates in the 3 or 4 days leading up to the marathon. What will happen is the body will store a little bit more carbohydrate, and that means that you will fatigue more slowly and you'll be able to keep going for about 20 minutes, half an hour longer. So it is worth doing. And the way to do it is just to add in a fourth meal in the day. So have your breakfast, maybe have your lunch a little bit earlier, have another meal about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and then have your evening meal. It is worth doing.